So, it's my Star Wars Outlaws review time. And this is a review after completion. Not 100%, I've not done absolutely everything there is to do in the game, but I have completed the main story, and I've done quite a lot of the side quests, intel, and everything like that. And before we jump into this one, I want to put a disclaimer out there, especially for people that are new to the channel, before the comments start getting flooded with all the typical, oh, you're a shill, and all the rest of it. So first off, yes, I was given this game for free. A massive thank you to Ubisoft for it. But that does in no way change my opinion about the game. And that is because throughout the entire time I've been on YouTube, no matter what game I'm playing, whether I'm giving it for free, whether it's a free game, whether it's paid, full price, AAA premium, whatever, I will always be 100% honest about my experience. And you have to bear in mind it's my personal experience, so it's my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their own opinions. But not only that, me and Ubisoft have quite the track records. I've done over 600 videos for The Division 2, and a lot of them were rants and moaning about the game. But that is because when it comes to Massive Entertainment, which are the developers for Star Wars Outlaws, they make some fantastic single-player or story-based games. When it comes to like the end game of The Division 2, that's where I personally feel that it drops off, and I don't think they do as well developing like an online end game sort of component to a game as what they do with more of a story-based game. So Star Wars Outlaws is absolutely nowhere near perfect. I've had issues with the game myself. For an example, I'm playing on PC, very high-end PC, 4080 Super, i9-12900KF, 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM running at 5200, I think it is, megahertz. So it's an incredibly powerful PC. However, through the Ubisoft launcher, I have had problems loading the game. Basically, when I go to launch it and it comes up with the like warning screen before it starts going into all the splash screens for the different companies, it would freeze. And it wouldn't say not responding in Task Manager or anything like that. It would just lock up and it wouldn't do anything no matter how long I left it. And sometimes it took 4 or 5 attempts to get this game to load on my PC, which it definitely should not do. And then throughout my playtime, I had one crash back to the desktop, and then I had some like minor bugs and stuff where prompts weren't working properly, or any, like little things that you can basically just brush off. I had one recently after I actually completed the story, going doing a side quest. I had one where I couldn't interact with a vendor to open up their shop menu. Basically, all I did was walked away, untracked the quest, went back to them, and it worked fine. So minor things that you can work around to bypass and things like that. But then the main reason I'm doing this is because there's been so much hate on the internet towards this game, and a lot of it, I'm going to say most of it, is unwarranted. When it comes to Star Wars as a franchise, I'm not the biggest fan. I constantly dip my toes in and out. I've played Jedi Survivor, I played Fallen Order, I've played the Force Unleashed games, I played Battlefront, like the newer ones that were made by EA that ended up being really bad because of microtransactions and stuff. I've played quite a bit of Star Wars, but I'm not the biggest fan at all. However, this game kept me hooked from beginning to the very end. And that's not to say it's got an amazing story, but the story isn't bad either. It's actually a pretty good story. But then it's not all about the story either. This is a game that has your main story, which actually feels really, really short. I've got a feeling there will be people that are completing this game from start to finish in terms of the main story in about 10 or 12 hours. But as well as the main story, you have a bunch of other things to do in this game. In total, it took me 22 hours until I got to the end credits. And that was doing little bits of side content every now and then whilst I was progressing through the main story. So it's a decent runtime for this game. And when it comes to the side content, you have intel, you've got, like, you can do little bits of gambling in terms of, like, essentially horse racing. You've got a card game you can play. The intel might lead you to something called a smuggler's cache, which will give you treasure. There's like loads and loads of different treasures and stuff. You've got some puzzles and everything in the game. It's all open world. And it's not just based on the planets either. There's a few planets. There's not too many. I can't remember exactly how many there are. I think you have a little bit in Kanto, then you've got Tashara, Akiva, Tatooine, Kijimi. I can't remember if there's any more. So there's around 5 planets in the game. But it's not just planets. You get orbits as well. And these areas in space that they have made are fantastic. The space combat is brilliant. There's also your treasures and things like that out in space as well. And then because it's all based on like you being a bounty, like you have a death mark over your head, you have different factions in the game. You've got the Pikes, you've got Crimson Dawn, you've got the Hutts, and then you've got the Empire as well. The Empire, like, pretty much hate you from start to finish. Like, you can barely ever go into, like, their territories without stormtroopers coming after you. And then if you build up your wanted level, you eventually have death troopers that you need to try and deal with. But then on top of all that content, you get little quests to unlock, like, certain materials you're going to need for upgrades and things. And I'm not a big fan of how some of them have been done, like the Fusion Cutter. You get it really, really close to the end of the main story. But you've got your ship that you can change the appearance of, you can upgrade it and stuff, like different engine, different weapons. You've got your weapon, you can change all the modules and things on that. You've got your speeder, you can add jumping to it, you can add boost to it, you can upgrade its speed and everything. So there is so much to do in this game. And granted, the price isn't the greatest. I think it's one of Ubisoft's most expensive games ever, at least when it comes to the Ultimate Edition. I think standard is your typical price from nowadays games. And another thing I don't like about the game is the weapons, because you have your blaster with the upgrades and the modules and things like that. But when you pick up, say you kill a stormtrooper, you pick up their blaster rifle, you get a very, very limited amount of ammo. But it's not just the ammo. Like, the ammo is not really a problem. Like, you don't want one of their weapons like for an infinite amount of time. I know obviously some people would, but it's nice to like have your blaster and that be your main weapon. But when you pick up an enemy weapon, the moment you do a melee attack, the moment you drop down a wall, or use a ladder or something, you drop that weapon. There's absolutely no way to, like what it would be in other games, holster the weapon and keep it for use at a later date until the ammo runs out. The moment you use a ladder, that weapon is gone. So there are some things I feel could have been improved, like could have worked differently when they released it. But there is so much hate going around. Like, I've seen YouTubers doing videos saying they were bullied about their opinion on Star Wars because they enjoyed it. And I've done some tips videos and stuff. I've had people telling me they're unsubbing from the channel, they hate me, why am I playing this game, I'm a shill, all the rest of it. But the people, like a lot of the people, I'm not going to say everyone, a lot of the people that are hating on this game have never ever touched this game. They have never put it in their console, loaded it up on their PC or anything. They've never played this game. This is one of those games that has picked up a massive traction of hate. Like, there are so many hate trains, bandwagons, or whatever you want to call it, for absolutely no reason. Like, the people are just hating on this game because it exists. Like, there's nothing else to it sometimes. But there are not too many games that I actually want to go back and play. Like, recently there's been a couple of games here and there that I've jumped on for a couple of hours and I thought, no, this isn't really for me. And then it's back to Star Wars. I'm not constantly looking for other games to play, or I wasn't. It's a little bit different now that I've completed the main story. I don't have too much of an incentive to go back and play more. I'm not a big fan of doing 100% absolutely everything on a game. But the time I spent in this game, the way they've built up the worlds, the combat, the bounty side of it, the puzzles and stuff, the characters are phenomenal. I absolutely love the characters. The way Massive Entertainment built this game and the way like Ubisoft helped with like whatever they did, the way this game was built, developed and everything is not as bad as some people are making out. Nowhere near as bad as some people are making out. I enjoyed this game, besides a couple of bits, I'd say mid to end game, where I was getting a bit like, oh, is this really going to carry on for much longer? Besides that, from start to finish, I enjoyed this game a lot. There were another couple of things that were a tiny bit frustrating at the time, like where they had set pieces. You would have an objective that was like 3 kilometers away and you weren't able to fast travel because they would class it as being during a quest, and you're not allowed to fast travel during a quest. But the way they set it up is because the characters are going to be talking, so there's going to be like dialogue and stuff as you are driving to your next objective. I wasn't a fan because towards the end of the game the speeder did start getting a little bit frustrating, but that's only because I am a lazy gamer. If there's fast travel, I'm going to be using it. I like doing a bit of exploration of the world and stuff that I'm playing in at the start, but then when I know a lot of the areas, I get bored very quickly and I enjoy fast travel. But that's another thing, this game's not filled up with loading screens and stuff. There are quite a few of them, but it's nothing like, for an example, Starfield. That had a ton of loading screens. There are definitely some loading screens that are hidden by different animations and stuff, but it's not like, it doesn't break your immersion or anything like that, and the game loads very quick. I mean, yes, I'm running it through an NVMe SSD, but it still runs quicker than other games I've played on the same SSD, like in terms of the loading times and stuff. So when it comes to Star Wars Outlaws, if I was to recommend either buying it or not, like based on my personal experience and my opinion, I would say if you're interested in the game, regardless of what you've seen in terms of the hate and people saying, oh, this game's woke and all the rest of it, I would say this game is definitely worth picking up and playing. And even if I had to pay the full amount of money to buy the game myself, I would still say exactly the same thing. For me to sit there and play a game for over 20 hours, in my opinion, that is a very good game. A lot of games I will have come to my conclusion of if it's good or bad after about somewhere between 2 to 4 hours. That's typically the ballpark. So for me to spend over 10, 20 hours, like with Black Myth Wukong, that was over 60 hours of game time. Absolutely loved that game. And I would have done the same with Star Wars Outlaws if it went on for that long. So yes, I recommend for people to ignore all of the hate. A lot of it is unwarranted. And if you are interested in this game, if you like Star Wars, if you like open worlds, if you like Ubisoft open worlds, this is a game that you are going to enjoy. And because this is a full-on review, now that I've completed the game, this isn't one of my is it worth playing games where I play at least a few hours and then come up with an opinion. I am going to give this game a score, and I'm going to give Outlaws an 8 out of 10. I actually really enjoyed this game. There's some things, as I said, I believe could have been done better. There were issues loading the game. I had the odd crash. I had some of the prompts not working, and some things felt a little bit off from time to time. But overall, it was a very good experience. The story was decent. There was a lot of content to it, even if some of it did feel quite repetitive, like go here, fetch this, go back, give it to someone, so on and so forth. So yeah, Star Wars Outlaws, 8 out of 10 for me, and that is going to do it for my review. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about this game in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.